Welcome back to episode 4 of the International Leadership Podcast. My name is Joe Beauchamp. I'm the host of today's show. I'm also co-host with Kevin DeVici from the American Business Podcast. Kevin, you want to show up? Thanks for being here.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for all your help with this podcast and for hosting this on the American Business Podcast channel. Very successful in under a year. You blew through 150,000 subscribers to the channel. We're just a little over a year now. So I'm glad to ride your coattails to success here on this podcast.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure working with you, Joe. Thank you very much for joining the American Business Podcast Network, and together with the International Leadership Podcast, under your leadership, of course, we're gonna do great things, and we already had a great start. And also, I like to congratulate you. You just actually streamed 4 episodes, right? This is originally the 4th episode. However, if we include the inauguration, you actually work on 4 different episodes with International Leadership Podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yep. So
that was a great start.
We'll call this one episode 4, even though we had the season premiere, I guess the first edition.
Yes, premiere. I love it.
So today we're going to do something a little different. I want to focus more on leadership concepts, leadership principles, and a system that I created. I shouldn't really say created, but a system I kind of rebranded into a system that I call Leadership Unleashed. It's a 3-part leadership process. And in those 3 parts, if any leader anywhere can look at their leadership in these 3 categories and improve them, they will improve their effectiveness as a leader. So we're looking at good leadership strategies, good leadership principles. And let's just back into effectively, like, what is leadership, right? So when we're thinking of leadership, if people aren't going anywhere, then they don't need a leader. So when we think about leadership, we're thinking of we're going somewhere, and that somewhere is not a physical destination. It's more of a ideological destination. We see something in the future being better than it is today, whether it be our business, our family, our health, our well-being, anything. We're seeing a better vision for the future than we see today. And so leadership is having an influence on ourselves, right? Self-leadership starts with self-leadership, and then having an influence on other people to move in the direction of that vision. So if you think about a good leader knows where they're going and can communicate clearly that vision to their team in a way that the team will say, yes, I want to go there too. I see the vision. I want to go there too. And then in addition to that, your team doesn't just need to know where you're going. They have to want to go there also. And they need to trust you that you're the best way to get there, right? If your team believes that you're the best way for them to get to this destination, they're going to follow your leadership. If they don't believe that you're the best way to get there, they'll go towards that vision, but they're just going to go on their own, or they're going to go with somebody else, right? And they might stay employed in your company, and you're there. You could still very well be their boss, but when it comes time to make decisions, when you bring up suggestions, when you even tell them, directives, the team's going to do something different because they don't trust your leadership, right? They're going to be like, well, that's good, Joe. I appreciate that, but this is what we're going to do instead. Or they'll say yes, and they don't do it. They do something different. And that's the frustration a lot of leaders have, is that their team yeses them and then they don't do it, right? That's even if they get to the point of the team saying yes. Sometimes the teams don't even say yes.
It's challenging. Is there a system about leadership, if want to break it down into pieces to practice it?
Yeah. So I took what I knew in leadership. And that's why I said, I didn't really develop this. I just kind of packaged it in a way that made sense to me. And so I package it together into these three parts. So I call part one inspiration, part two is activation, and part three is transformation, right? So we all want to get to the transformation phase. And a lot of people will emphasize, hey, I want to make these changes on my team. I want this transformation, but they fail at the inspiration and the activation part. So let's just break down each of these three pieces and see what's involved in them. So in the inspiration stage, right, we are inspiring our team. Now, there's inspiration and there's motivation. Without motivation, the team doesn't want to move, right? So people need to be energized. They need to feel this energy in order to move forward. If I'm going to go on a journey towards a destination, I need some degree of energy in which to go there. I have to be motivated. There's got to be some motivational factor in that. Now, you can motivate from in front, that's inspiration, or you can motivate from behind, that would be like threats and punishment, right? So threats and punishment will motivate your team, right? If you threaten your team, you're going to get fired. If you don't do this, we're going to take your pay away, right? There's going to be penalties. You're going to get written up, those kind of things. They will motivate people. People are definitely motivated by threats. Okay. I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating the opposite of that. I'm advocating for inspirational leadership, right? You're inspiring them from the front. You're casting a vision that they care about. You're demonstrating character that people want to follow. They trust you. They know you. They like you. They know where you're going. They believe that you have the skill set and the tool set to get them to that destination, and they're willing to follow you because you lead them into winning. So if we break down the inspirational piece, one of the things that we have to focus on is not demotivating our team, right? We can be trying to be inspirational, and yet at the same time, we are sucking the life out of our team, right? And that, it's like we're working against ourselves. People are like, and they take that as fate. They're going to look at me and they're like, hey, Joe, I hear you saying these things, but you actually look kind of foolish because every day you do stuff that just demotivates the team. And then you have this rah-rah session when you try to excite us about something. We're just not excited because we know that as soon as we walk away, we're going to walk out and we're going to be in a toxic culture. We're going to be reprimanded for stuff that's not right. Communication is terrible. You're going to be micromanaging people, right? So all kinds of things wrong. And so people want to know that they're in a healthy culture and an emotionally stable culture. And so part of leadership is this, what I refer to as emotional fitness. So emotional fitness has 4 parts. Part 1 is an awareness of ourselves and our own emotional state. Part 2 is the strategies to manage our own emotional state. Part 3 is an awareness of the emotional state of the people on our team, whether they be coworkers, bosses, employees, customers, family, friends, people that we socialize with, right? So everybody has their own emotional state that they're bringing to the table. And the majority of the world, like 99.9999999% of the world, is made up of other people, right? So for us to just focus on ourselves isn't really logical for the world at whole. So we have to focus on other people. What is the emotion? Are we emotionally aware of what's going on in the lives of the people that are around us? And then do we have strategies to interact with people in a healthy emotional way? If we don't have emotional fitness in any kind of organization, we generally tend to have a toxic culture. And the culture of the organization isn't going towards the vision. The culture of the organization is going sideways. We say that these are our core values. This is our mission. But meanwhile, our day-to-day decisions are made in a different direction.
For a business owner or a business leader running an operation on daily basis, leading the team and mitigating risk on daily basis, what are the best ways to be aware of the team members' emotional state and how they are doing? It is because it's very hard, right? Because they're really busy. They focus on day-to-day business activities most of the time. At the same time, they have to have their teams for the success. And to be a good leader, they need to also pay attention to their team members that they are
Correct.
leading. So, are there any best practices that you can share with us how to pay attention and understand the team members that we are leading.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we want to create a focus on this. We don't want to ignore that emotions are part of the human experience. And I think in my experience, before I come in and do training and make people aware, there's a general lack of awareness of the emotional aspect. People think, listen, come to work, do your job, go home, and then have your emotional state there. Like whatever's going on in your life, leave it at the door, right? And that's a common thing that people say. Leave your emotions at the door. This is work. But it's not. We cannot do that. We cannot separate our emotional brain from our logical brain. I bring them both in with me when I come in. And to ignore the emotional aspect of humanity is to shoot ourselves in the foot. We know that if people are in a calm, peaceful, emotional state, they're going to be in a fully engaged, logical, problem-solving state of mind where they're prefrontal. If we talk a little bit about the brain, the emotional part of the brain is called the limbic system, and the logical part of the brain is called the prefrontal cortex. So if we can keep the emotional limbic brain calm and peaceful, we can activate the logical prefrontal cortex part of our brain. So as business leaders, we want to make sure that we're doing things that are engaging prefrontal cortex, right? Things like good, healthy type of reflections, gratitude. A lot of times people will start off meetings with their win for the week or what they're thankful for. Or they'll include as part of the day, hey, what's working well? If I'm giving it a performance evaluation or any kind of evaluation on somebody, I need to catch them doing things right. As a leader, it's going to be healthy for my team if I say, hey, good job with this. Hey, when you handled this customer, these 3 steps that you did, that was stellar. You really did a fantastic job on doing. We're going to give specific praise for the members of our team. There's actually a ratio that they've figured out, and the ratio is between 3 to 1 or to 5 to 1 of praise, finding people doing stuff right, to the times that we need to give them correction on what they can do better. And the correction shouldn't be, you really sucked at this. This was terrible. I can't believe you did that. You really, made me angry or frustrated. I can't, you cost the company money. But hey, next time, let's do it like this, right? Step 1, hey, you did that fantastic. Step 2, amazing. Really good job with that. Step 3, solid. Step 4, here's where we're gonna work on that one. So next time when you encounter this, I want you to do, A, B, C, and D. Or even better would be, hey, next time we encounter this, what do you think you could do better? Right? And have the person say, you know what, I really should have done this differently. Great. I agree. That's 100% what you should do. Let's work on that next time. Hey, what can I do to help you with that? What can I clear out of the way? What kind of roadblocks can I clear out for you to be able to do that, right? And that goes into the activation part where we equip our team with every strategy for success. So emotional awareness comes with being aware that this emotional side exists and taking strategies to prepare our team for the emotional part of the job. So, for example, this is a true story. A friend of mine had cancer, overcame cancer, and had a thyroid problem. Calls the thyroid specialist and says, hey, I really need, I got this bad test result. I need to go see the thyroid specialist. I'm a cancer survivor and I really need this appointment. And the person says, well, we have next month. And he's like, I can't wait till next month. I'm really like, this is a problem. I'm concerned. Can you give me anything sooner? And the receptionist's like, no, there's nothing really I can do any sooner than that. He's like, well, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm really concerned about this. I got this bad test result. I need something sooner. And the girl says, I don't care. And so the person was like, all right, you don't care. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And hangs up the phone and calls a different provider. So we look at that and we're all offended. We're like, oh my gosh, how can this receptionist at this doctor's office tell a patient, I don't care, right? But let's look at it from the perspective of that person, right? Was she prepared for the emotional toil that it was going to take on her? Maybe that's the 10th call that day that she's telling person after person, you can't come in until next month. And person after person, patient after patient has a story of why they really need a sooner appointment. And maybe in her heart, she really does care, but it hurts too much. And so the best that she can come up with was, I don't care. Because if I care too much, I'm going to sit here and cry. I'm going to melt down in my chair. So I'm going to detach. I'm going to not care. I'm going to tell you I don't care because I'm done. I'm frustrated and I'm out. Right. The office manager, the doctor, whoever runs that office should have been aware of the emotional stress being put on their receptionist. They should be answering
That's
that.
true.
Like, it's not the receptionist's fault that the doctor's not taking appointments for the next month, right? Why didn't we figure out a way to navigate through that? Why didn't we create a means for which this employee can be like, you know what, I'm starting to get stressed out. Before I get upset with the next customer, hey, can you answer the phones for me for right now? I need to take a break for a minute. I need to really clear my head. Or, hey, by the way, doctor, people keep calling with these other appointments. I need something better to tell them the next month, right? There's got to be a way to diffuse the situation so that that pressure doesn't keep building up, right? But from a leadership perspective, if we don't look at that, we leave our people to their emotional self, which eventually explodes, and then they say something. And probably, I don't know what happened to this girl because the friend of mine went to a different provider. But let's say that got back to the owner and the boss, the primary care doctors or whoever it is, right, the specialist, and they decided to terminate her. Oh, you told the patient you don't care. That's against company policy. You're terminated, right? So now she's upset. She's angry. She's unemployed. The provider is hiring somebody new. That person new is also not going to be equipped to handle that job because the company doesn't do that. They don't do that training. They don't make the people aware. They don't give them strategies on how to manage the stress of their job. That's not the only stressful job. Most people are very stressed out at work. And that's why 2/3 of the population are disconnected at work, right? They're not performing. They're disconnected from their workplace. They're disconnected from the mission. They show up to work. It puts money in their pocket and pays for their bills at home. That's their primary motivator. They're not motivated by the mission of the organization. They're not motivated by their leadership team. They're not motivated to do this great service for their customers. They're motivated to come in, get a paycheck, and go home. They're disengaged because their leadership isn't inspiring. It's not equipping them.
Yes, and to your point, that's also a sign of lack of leadership right there. So to your
Absolutely.
point earlier, so the leader of the organization is not paying attention to the team member, or
Right.
no empathy. Hey, I put my team members up front to deal with the patients who are really having hard time, difficulty emotionally, physically, medically.
Yeah.
And then how are we going to reply? How are we going to help them, assist them? And who is
Right.
facing them? The team member. And she needs to be supported in so many different ways. Maybe she can have an assistant or other team members. They can do this client-facing process
Right.
by turns, perhaps. But definitely it needs training and support. I mean, even I'm thinking, Joe, to your point, like, because I'm trying to put myself in her place. Like, there is a limit, right? This is really emotionally heavy experience too. I mean, just to your point, maybe 15 times, 10 times, or many times that you talk to different patients with similar challenges, medically, emotionally. It's difficult to give answers and address them. And I'm also thinking, like, how would I address it? How would I help? But then, you talk to your employer, ideally the leader, and if the leader is not paying attention, then you are stuck. And then the responses
Right.
that you're gonna get is the responses that you just mentioned in that example. And
So
I
the
believe,
employee, go ahead.
yes,
The employee
and
does
then
not have an awareness.
yes,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, there's
please,
a little
Mike.
bit
Sorry about
of
that.
delay. Go ahead.
No problem. That's great. Please.
Okay. The employee does not have an awareness of this whole thing that's going on behind the scenes in her head, right? But this scenario, you can put this in a construction industry, right? Deadlines get missed, materials are broken. We had a delivery of product and part of the product is broken, and now we don't have enough product to complete the job, and maybe the next one doesn't color match depending upon what the thing is, or it's going to delay the job, and then we have deadlines, and the inspector is coming at a certain time, and it's not going to be ready in time, or or there was traffic, and as the stuff was coming, now it's delayed, and or maybe we're getting some concrete delivered, but the concrete truck is stuck in traffic, and now that when the concrete gets poured, it's going to be a different consistency because it sat too long in traffic and didn't get poured right away, and any number of things can cause stressors on people, and people flip out, they break down emotionally, they start cursing people out or throwing things, or or having emotional breakdowns, or they just quit, or they go to drugs or alcohol or other types of things. There's a whole lot of unhealthy ways to handle stress, and everybody has stress on the job. There's always a deadline. There's always something goes wrong. You can be in, computer stuff. Everything was going smooth, and then we got a virus. Everything was going smooth, and then somebody clicked on the wrong link, or they, and they infected the computer, or something just broke down, or there was a bug, or we didn't think about that, or all kinds of stuff goes wrong all the time. Like, work can be emotionally stressful, and if we're not preparing ourselves and our team for the emotional stress of work, we're leaving ourselves like undefended against an enemy that's going to come in and attack, right? So it's like if we take our military and we send them out without body armor. You didn't know somebody's going to shoot at them? Yeah, somebody's going to shoot at them. So wear this body armor. Well, let's keep you out of the line of fire, first of all, but just in case you get hit, we're going to put body armor on you. Okay. We prepare our military for every opportunity for success. They're trained. They're given every tool, right? Everything advanced we're giving to our military to go out there and be successful. Life and death is at hand. If we're good leaders, we're going to take care of our team. We're going to anticipate what they might encounter, right? And that's part of leadership that we don't really focus on, is anticipating what our team might encounter. What we tend to do is we say, well, I can do fine with this. I'm good at this. I'm okay with answering the phone. I don't mind stressful situations. So my team should be able to do the same thing. And they can't. They haven't been prepared for it, right? So they're going in without body armor on, and then they get shot, metaphorically, and then you have a problem. And then we say, well, what happened? Why'd you tell that customer you don't care? Or why'd you miss a deadline? Or why did you blow up at, Susie down the hall? So all these things can influence how people interact, right? It's all this emotional part. And next thing you know, you have people on your team who might have resentment for you as the boss. They might have resentment for a customer, which never works out well. They might have resentment for another coworker inside the business. And that resentment stops the flow of teamwork, communication, and people can do exactly everything correctly according to the book and still mess up the company, right? So you might have a company policy that emails have to be responded to, certain requests have to be responded to within 24 hours, right? And so you might shoot me an email, hey, Joe, do you have the numbers on, Smith, right? And I can give you those numbers like that. I know them off the top of my head. I could have answered you back in, literally 5 minutes. But instead, I wait 23 and a half hours because the company policy is 24 hours. And right before the deadline, I give you your numbers if it's my job. Or if it's not really my job, I say, oh, by the way, Kevin, you really should ask your supervisor for these numbers. Meanwhile, I could have given you, like, you could have had your answer yesterday at 2:05, and now it's today at 1:55, and I'm telling you to go somewhere else to go find it. And that person might not even be in, any number of things.
For great leader. So actually, to your point, being proactive and staying on top of possibilities, what may happen, and how can I prepare my team, and how can I be in good shape emotionally and professionally. So
I lost you for a second.
certain techniques in terms or practices for leaders to prepare their team members?
So one of the things that I think leaders really need to focus on is continuous self-development, right? Reading books, having a coach, a mentor, outside help, watching videos, going to conferences, educating yourself. That continuous growth, self-development, self-education is going to open your eyes to other opportunities that you might have missed otherwise. Because by default, we all look at ourselves and we're like, okay, we're going to pretend like everybody else is just like us. And so when other people are not like us, we usually get upset. Well, how come you just can't be more like me, right? We don't say that literally because it really sounds arrogant, but that's what we do say. Like, how come you just can't do this? How come you just can't show up to work, 5 minutes early every day? How come you can't just get these things done by the deadline? How come you can't just, take care of customer XYZ in 5 minutes? And what we're really saying is, I can do it. It's easy for me to do it. Therefore, it must be easy for you to do it. And if you can't do it easy as I do it, then there's something wrong with you, right? And so us as leaders, we need to lose that as well. We need to understand, hey, you're a package of good and weakness, at the same time. I like your strengths. I'm not crazy about your weaknesses, but your strengths are different than my strengths, and therefore your weaknesses are different than my weaknesses, right? So as long as I'm keeping you in an area where you have strength, then you're good. I'll figure out the weaknesses because I really need you for your strengths. And that's really the key. That's a key to putting the right people in the right seats in leadership. And that is making sure that you know their strengths and you fit them in. And then you just have to accommodate or mitigate their weaknesses unless they're too great. And then they're not the right fit for the company. Somebody posted one time on LinkedIn, they're like, all you need to do to hire a good person is hire these 9 characteristics that you want. And it sounded so simple, right? 9 characteristics. Well, I did the statistical math on that. And so, let me break out my calculator. Let's do it again, right? Let's say you were to pick somebody who's just above average. And I can see, you're smirking because you know a little bit of math, right? But let's say somebody they're just going to be above average in 9 different categories. The math on that is 0.5 raised to the 9th power, right? And so then that comes out to be about 0.2%, 0.2% of the population. So out of your population, if you're just going to pick somebody who's above average, not great, they're just above average in 9 different categories, it's a 1 in 500 chance that you're going to find that person. So the more categories you're looking for somebody to be good at, the less likely you're going to find them. They become this unicorn, somebody who just doesn't exist, So we got to take the good with the bad. I have people with strengths, and every person with the strength also has a weakness. Am I willing to live with that weakness? If I'm not, well, then I got to find somebody else. If I can mitigate that, let's say with a teammate who's strong in that area, then that's the plan. But you hire for strength. If you're really good at something and I need that, that's what I want. I'm going to hire for that.
One of my clients once told me, he told me that he does things that he's good at, and anything that he's not good at, he hires professionals to support his team.
Absolutely. There's so much today, especially with, you have freelancers, you've got fractional, you can hire a fractional CFO, you can hire a fractional CMO for marketing, right? You can hire a fractional COO. What I would tell a business leader is this: you run the company. So ultimately the direction of the company, the vision, the mission, right? The culture, the core values, that is on the shoulders of the leader, whoever that is, the business owner, the CEO, whoever the top of that company is. Determining the direction of the company, the mission, the vision, that's your job. Beyond that, it's what you're good at. If I'm really good at this certain piece, if I'm the best at that, I'll do that piece. Even if it's a lower level position, if that's what I really like, I started the business because I really love this. So for example, I do coaching and training. I really love working with people, right? If I had a team of 50 people working for me, I would still love coaching and training. I still want to get in front of customers. I still want to be there in the room while I'm opening up people's, insights and their wisdom, their knowledge, and their ability to lead and communicate and have emotional intelligence and just function as a team and create culture. I want to be in the mix. So no matter how many people I have working for me, I'm still going to be there because that's my sweet spot. I love doing it. I feel like I'm good at it. Now if I'm the worst person on my team doing it, well, I'm going to have to hand that off. Even if I could love it, but I'm not good at it. So I got to hand it off to somebody. So that's part of the self-awareness, right? When we go into the emotional part of the job, like this self-awareness, am I the best one to do these things? Or am I just really not very good at it? I know great leaders who are not good at hiring people because they always give people the benefit of the doubt. Everybody who walks in their door and sits down in front of them, they're like, you know what? I think you could really be good. I'll help you. I'll train you. I'll coach you. I'll lead you. I'll work with you and you'll be great. And that's wonderful. But not everybody's worth that time. There's probably, there's somebody else who can sit in that seat who will actually give you a good ROI on your investment of time in them, right? So being aware of what I'm good at and aware of what I'm not good at, and then taking whatever I'm not good at and finding somebody else who's better and giving it over to them, that's a great strategy for leadership. Now, we all know that leaders need to delegate. If you don't delegate, you're carrying the entire weight of the company on your shoulders. So you have to delegate. The big mistake in delegating is a lot of leaders will just say, okay, I need to delegate here. Kevin, you take this. And they just give it over to Kevin and then they walk away. Okay. So that doesn't work. Then they come back to me like, Joe, I delegated this stuff and it just didn't work. I'm like, yeah, you just handed it. You didn't really delegate it. You handed it off. You just wiped it off your plate onto Kevin's plate. You didn't do the 3-step process. You didn't inspire him, right? You didn't cast the vision. Hey, what does this look like in the end result? You didn't give him a clear mission. He doesn't have a clear direction. He's not like, yes, I'm buying it. I can see that vision. I'm in, right? He didn't buy into that vision, right? You didn't equip him. You didn't prepare him for success. You didn't give him every strategy, every tool, every procedure, every part of that activation stage, right? So he's not inspired. He's not activated, right? And then we're expecting some kind of transformation. Hey, you're going to do this and you do it well. So in the transformation phase, that's where we're setting clear guidelines, clear goals, clear expectations, right? And then clear measurements, how we're going to measure success. Those measurements need to be quality measurements and quantity measurements, because anybody can give you really good quality and low quantity, or really good quantity and low quality, right? So we're always going to set expectations for people for quality standards and for quantity standards. And then that's the transformation piece. Once you've created a culture of accountability where everybody knows they're bought in, they're equipped, and they know their metrics, and we're measuring what counts, we're measuring the right metrics, and we're holding people accountable for making continuous commitments to continuous improvement, and we're continuously measuring that improvement, then we get to celebrate with them as they're meeting those milestones. That's really the transformation phase. When you've created a culture of accountability, everybody's marching in the same direction, and they're all being successful because they've been equipped properly. Now we have celebration. That's really the only emotion that we should be showing at work, is the celebration. Not to say that if you have negative emotions, you can't show them, right? We're not suppressing emotions, we're processing them. That's part of the emotional intelligence piece. But that's really the 3-step process. You got the inspiration, the activation, and the transformation. And that's what I call leadership unleashed. So we've touched on all 3 pieces. We've kind of scattered around. We're still kind of in that the leadership unleashed phase 1, which is that inspirational piece, right? So we understand that a lack of emotional intelligence creates a toxic culture, which is now defeating the inspiration, right? You can't inflate a tire that has a hole in it, right? So you got to plug the hole first. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes in, or what I call emotional fitness, right? If I ask people, are you emotionally intelligent? Everyone, like pretty much 100% of people will say, I am emotionally intelligent. It's like a yes, no. On a scale of yes or no, yes, I am. We're good. That's not entirely true. When it comes to fitness, we understand that there's different levels of fitness, right? So for example, I can run, I can't run a marathon. As a matter of fact, I learned a couple of years ago that I can't run a half marathon. I signed up for a half marathon, and I had to walk the last few miles of that because, my knees started really, they felt like they were on fire. So if I trained properly and I applied proper strategies over a long enough period of time, I would become physically fit enough to run a half marathon. And if I continue to do that, I could run a marathon, right? So fitness comes from implementing strategies over time. Emotional fitness comes from implementing emotional strategies on managing emotions over the course of time. If I consistently execute good emotional strategies, I will develop more emotional fitness, right? And that's how we plug a lot of these holes in the tire, so to speak, in our company, right? Because our company culture is going in the wrong direction. And when the company culture is going in the wrong direction, people are demotivated. And when they're demotivated, they're hard to motivate. Okay. So the culture, we want to align with our mission and our vision. And I'll often describe this as being like a river, right? A river flows downstream. We want to make sure that downstream is in the direction of the mission that we're on as a company, right? It's going towards that vision. If the river is going sideways or diagonal, and we're still trying to go, if we're trying to go south, but our river is going east-west, we're going to have a difficult time going across that river because the river is going to drag us down. And the same thing with our culture. I have a culture that says we focus on, good service my culture says we focus on service to customer, but the company culture says we move deadlines. We don't really hold to our commitments with our customer. We commit to the customer, it'll be done in a month, But then 2 weeks into it, we pushed the deadline out 2 more weeks. And then 2 weeks later, we pushed out another 2 weeks, right? And then eventually 3 months later, the job is done, but the customer thought it was supposed to be done 2 months before. And we told them it was going to be done. We told them it was going to take a month, but it took us 3 months to do it, right? So that's the company culture. That's everybody in the company says, oh, if it's close to the deadline, we can just move the deadline. It's not a big deal. That's how we do it here, right? And this is a real life scenario that happened at a customer, right? The company just believed, everybody just believed, oh, we'll just move the deadline. Well, that degraded their customer experience. So they had to change the culture. They had to change the underlying belief system. On paper, that was a no. But in reality, in actual practice, that's what people believed and that's what they did. So it's changing the belief system of your team so that they're all believing in alignment with the mission, right? They're all seeing the vision. They're all bought into it. They're inspired, and then they're equipped, right? They have the proper training, coaching, guidance, mentoring, standard operating procedures, all those policies, procedures, everything in that activation phase. They are activated to be successful, and then they're held accountable, right? So phase 3, this transformation, is that system of accountability, creating a culture of accountability. It's the metrics, it's the measurements, KPIs, or OKR, sometimes objectives and key results. So whichever way you're using to measure out those results, people they know the results, they know the measurements, and they're making commitments on an ongoing basis to be accountable for continuous improvement. And that 3-phase system gets you better results. We know that better leaders get better results. If you elevate your leadership, you'll elevate your results.
Well, it's been actually a very informative episode. Before we end, I have a question. So you just mentioned if a leader is good at something, a part of the operations, she may be actually doing it, right, in different levels. And and actually, I actually experienced it as a customer, right? So many years ago, we used to work with a courier company. They used to do transportation and moving our goods back in the time. I'm talking about decades ago. And that was the company that we were working with. And the company name, I can't remember the company. Say UPS.
Don't name the company.
Yes, just say UPS for now, just as an example. So I called. We like to schedule the pickup, right? So the owner answered the call, and then I was actually I was surprised because he never answered before, and they always had a team. Like it wasn't a small company. And then we had that conversation just like I had with any other agent there. I was pretty impressed though. Like I was, just happy to talk to the owner. Hands-on, very professional. That's to the point, sharp, asking the questions, very courteous. I was impressed. So from the client side, I was impressed to see their leader in the front line and very professional, exemplary. I to this day I still remember. How do you see the impact of having leaders in front line, working shoulder to shoulder with team members?
So I think every good leader needs to do like an undercover boss. You don't have to be undercover, but you should be answering your own phones, right? Not all the time, but sometimes. Listen to what people have to say. Talk to your customers. Find out what is their actual experience, right? Go pack some boxes. Go work the assembly line. Go work the different parts of the company. Go in there and do those jobs and just see and feel what is the actual employee experience in those in every part of your company. Like have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on in your company. And it's also going to let the employees know, hey, my boss is not too good to roll up his sleeves and stand side by side with me and, pack boxes or run wiring or, code computers or whatever. Now, you might not be good at it anymore. Like that might be something, especially like in technology, right? So you founded a technology company and you might have been an excellent engineer at one point in time. And because you've been running the company for so long, you're not the latest and greatest with the technical stuff. So I'm sure your team will forgive you for that, but still roll up your sleeves, get down with them, see what's actually going on, feel it, experience it, have compassion on your team, get some empathy of what they're going through, right? It's easy for me to say, you need to, answer these calls, this much quicker. But if I'm not clearing out roadblocks that I might have put myself, right? I go down there and I work and somebody says, well, the company policy is that we have to do these 17 steps before we can do this. I'm like, wait a second. Those 17 steps take 30 minutes. You're telling me that you delay every customer 30 minutes so you can do these 17 steps? Yeah, that's the company policy. We have to do it. If I don't do it, I get written up. I'm like, okay, let's fix company policy because I'm shooting myself in the foot. We're on a mission. We're trying to reduce these times. We're trying to give good service to our customer. Our customer doesn't care that all 17 steps are done. They care that they get answered in a quick time frame, right? So let's try to streamline those things. So as a leader, really get your feel on the pulse of what's happening inside your company. Another thing that a lot of times we neglect. So you've heard of people talk about an open door policy, right? A lot of leaders will say, oh, I have an open door policy. Anybody that needs to talk to me about anything can come talk to me at any time. I'm telling people, time out. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Okay. It's a bad idea on multiple levels. Number one, your time is valuable. Not everybody who comes to you is valuing your time, right? So to tell people you can come to me anytime is telling people you can interrupt important work that I need to do as the CEO or leader or team leader, district manager, whatever it is. You're permitted to interrupt my important time doing these things with anything that you deem important, right? So I'm going to give you access to my calendar to come and interrupt me at any time. That's not really good leadership. Okay. So the other thing is that employee A, let's say, will come to you too frequently. Employee A comes to you with every little issue because they like to talk to you. They like the fact that they have access to the boss, whoever it is, right? Or their whatever level of leadership.
Open door policy. They can just come in and ask.
Open door. It's an open door policy. Yeah. You said you have an open door policy. I'll come and talk to you.
They're invited.
Yeah. Right. I might, let's say, let's take the negative for a second. And I want to give people the benefit of the doubt all the time, but there are employees who might like to waste some time. I don't really want to deal with this customer. I don't want to deal with this problem. I don't want to design this thing. I don't want to do whatever. Let me go talk to the boss because he's good for 20 minutes of just shooting fat, right? So if I'm talking to the boss, I can't get in trouble. It's not like I'm talking to a family member. It's not like I'm out for a smoke break for 20 minutes. I'm talking to the boss for 20 minutes. You can't blame me for that, right? So you don't get in trouble for it because you're talking to the boss, but you're wasting the boss's time and you're wasting your time. You should be out there designing your job or doing whatever the work you're supposed to be doing, right? So then you get employees that are doing that. And then you have employee B. Employee B won't even talk to you if there's a fire in the place. Oh, I put the fire out. Yeah, it's good. We're good. I didn't need to talk to you about it, right? So every employee has their different level at which they think it's important to address the boss. Yes, you have an open door policy, but of course I'm not going to bother the boss. It's my job to get all that stuff done. And the other person's like, oh, of course, I tell the boss everything, right? So to stop that, you need to, number one, you need to close your door, right? But every employee gets a chunk of time on a consistent basis. That consistent basis should be at least once every other week, right? If you're not having at least a 15-minute conversation with all the members on your team, now it doesn't mean the entire company, right? So if you're the CEO and you have 200 people working for you or 500 people working for you, you can't spend 15 minutes with all 500 people. You can spend 15 minutes with your leadership team that's directly below you, and they spend their 15 minutes with the team that's below them, and so on and so forth. So everybody should get at least 15 minutes of your time for a check-in once a week or once every other week, just for a quick, how's it going? How are you doing? What roadblocks can I clear from you? Is there anything you see that I should know? And these are the things that I see that you should know, right? And so you have that two-way conversation. These are your objectives, right? So if we go back to that transformation phase, it's the accountability system. Last week, you made these commitments that you were going to work on this level of quality in this certain thing. How is that going? It's going great. I did X, Y, and Z. I got these results. Fantastic. That's wonderful. What are you going to do next? Well, next I want to work on this other thing to improve my productivity in this way. Great. I'll check back with you next week. Okay. So those 15-minute conversations take care of all those pieces, their objectives, their key results, their KPIs, whatever kind of measurements they're going to use, right? In section 3, this transformational piece, this culture of accountability, that's all taken care of in those brief, consistent meetings that you have with all the employees. Everybody gets their opportunity to say something. Everybody has to say something. And I would encourage people to start off with what's good. Remember, there's a 3-to-1 ratio, at least 3-to-1 of what's working to what should be done better. Okay. So when the person comes in for those 15 minutes, you did this well, you did this well, you did this well. What do you think you can do better? This. Great. Let's work on that. Okay. And the same thing with them. Hey, what's working well in the company? I'm going to ask the employee what's working well for them. These are the things that are working well. Okay. And what do you think can be done better? I don't take complaints. A complaint is when I present a problem with no solution. If you're going to present a problem, you should present at least one solution, preferably 2 or 3 solutions, right? Here's the problem that I see. These are 3 ways I think you can fix it. It should be 10% problem, 90% solution, right? So if I'm going to talk about it for 5 minutes, you got 30 seconds to describe the problem and 4.5 minutes to tell me possible solution to solve that problem.
Yes, this is good. So you
Yeah.
can come to me with problems, but make sure bring me also possible solutions as well. So let's
Correct.
have a productive meeting.
Right. And so you should eliminate the complaining. We're not complaining about problems. We're identifying them, right? It's your job it's everybody's job to identify the problem and to identify solutions. You know, if you don't come to with a solution, it's going to waste time. Here's another thing I like to say. If somebody comes into your office with a monkey, don't keep the monkey. Send them out with their monkey. You brought a monkey in, you take the monkey out with you, right? Otherwise, I know an office full of monkeys. So that's the analogy. Like you come to with a problem and say, okay, I'll take care of that. Then somebody else comes in with a problem. Okay, I'll take care of that. Somebody else comes, and then next thing you know, your entire team is leaving. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to go. They all go, and I have 10 more
All the
hours of
monkeys
work.
are here.
I got all the monkeys, right? I got every monkey. So you come in with the monkey, you go out with your monkey. So yeah, come in. If you're going to describe a problem, you better have a solution, at least one solution, preferably 2 or 3. And then let's talk them out. Let's work out what's going to be best. And you go out with that. You go out with your own monkey. You solve that problem. So, right. Then let's go back a second to that center step, right? That activation phase of leadership, right? So activation involves equipping the team for success, training, coaching, mentoring, strategies, tools, right? Tools could be a simple thing like a checklist, or it could be literal physical tools. It could be software. It could be computer systems, right? What are the tools that somebody needs to be successful? It could be clearing out the roadblocks, like the story before. We had 17 checklist items that we have to get done to service our customer. And those things take 30 minutes. We're trying to get this time frame to be, less than 2 minutes, but we can't certainly do 17 different steps before that. Can you clear out that obstacle? Is there a way to unblock the bottleneck at that point? So as a leader, it's our job to equip our team for success. They need to be prepared with everything that they can do everything that they need to be successful. If we haven't properly equipped them, I can inspire them all I want. They're not going to get it done. And I can't hold them accountable, right? I can't do that transformation. There is no transformation without equipping them, without activating them, right? So if you combine the inspiration with all the tools and processes, they're now active. They are actively able to pursue those goals. Now, if you skip the 3rd step, right, the transformation step, the culture of accountability, everyone will drift. Everyone launches off like a rocket, and then over the course of time, they're at 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%, 50%, right? Without that culture of accountability, that continuous system of making commitments towards continuous improvement. Okay. So I know I keep flipping back and forth. Let's go back to the activation stage again. In order to properly equip our team, we need to know our team. We should know for example, their DISC personality types. Okay. So DISC personality types, you've got D's, I's, S's, and C's. Each one of them has a different communication style. They have a different way of thinking. They've got different wants and needs. They've got different fears. They've got different ways of making decisions. I need to know the team so that I can address them based upon their personality type. There's 3 different learning styles. You've got people that are auditory learners, people that are visual learners, and people that are hands-on, we call them tactile or kinesthetic learners. Okay. So you need to understand the learning style of the people on your team. Why am I giving you a visual when you're a tactile learner, right? Why am I giving you hands-on if you're an auditory learner? So it's not good enough for me to just give you the information the way that it makes sense to me. I've got to give you the information in a way that makes sense for you. So having that clear system of communication, a clear delivery system for equipping your team, that creates the activation phase. Once they've been clearly equipped and inspired, they're activated. Once they're activated, now it's time for the culture of accountability. And that's where the real transformation begins. That's long-term cultural change, long-term results. long-term benefit to the company and the customers. So, and that's
Like
the Leadership Unleashed
yes,
transformation system.
yes. I love to continue this conversation. This is great, but I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing these. I'm gonna, if you like to, read us out, uh, I'll leave the screen to you. But it was a great conversation. Thank you for having me, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Kevin. So, yeah, this has been the International Leadership Podcast. My name is Joe Beauchamp. You can find me at beauchampteam.com. If anything that you've heard today is interesting to you and you want to talk to me about it more, feel free to shoot me an email at info@beauchampteam.com, or just click on the link on the website to schedule an appointment. No fee for the initial consultation. More than happy to talk to anybody about it. So I'm here to help. I appreciate and love all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on the International Leadership Podcast. Thanks a lot. Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching our podcast of the International Leadership Podcast. Once again, my name is Joe Beauchamp, president and founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. That's beauchampteam.com. If you like this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor of this program, please give me an email at info@beauchampteam.com. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it and discuss options and how it can work something out for everyone to win. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye.